Hey y'all, my name's Max, and I wanted to share you guys my portfolio that got me into Pratt, Parsons School of Design, and School of the Arts Institute Chicago. Currently, I'm attending Parsons as a second-year illustration student with probably a minor in sociology. We're still figuring that out, but this video has been long on my to-do list, and I'm finally getting around to it. I don't have all of the artworks on me right now because I honestly don't know where a lot of them went. I have a couple that are like sitting in the corner of my room, but most of them are just gone forever, and I also don't have all of the descriptions that I've written for the artworks because those are all my old school account, and guess what my dumb ass decided to do? I knew that it was getting terminated and did not decide to transfer all those old files, so guess what? Those old files are gone forever too. But I will do the best I can to show you guys what I had that got me into those schools. Things to note, I'm currently also on a scholarship, and I guess here are my credentials, if you can even call them that. I did not do any sort of art education outside of my high school, but I did take visual arts class for 4 years, as well as in middle school. I have gotten 4 visual arts honors awards, except for my high school in the senior year, because honestly I was not in the best place, and so I feel like I could have done a lot better, as well as in my portfolio too. And also because I lost access to my old email, I can't really look at Slideroom, which is the website that we use to submit our portfolios. So I don't remember exactly what order they were in, so I'm just gonna go off the IB exhibition order, and I'm pretty sure like they're almost the same. I'll be showing around like 12 to 15 pieces that I have on my phone, and giving you guys the descriptions that I wrote for them, as well as reading out the essay that got me into those colleges, or hopefully got me into those colleges. I don't know if the essay really helped with much. I did not really attend art competitions or portfolio day because, to be quite frank, I'm a really insecure person, and I did not think that I'd achieve much out of those, even though I probably should have done those. I did join one competition after being peer pressured by my IB, what are they called? The IB leader, for lack of a better word. She convinced me to submit this animated music video that I did for a song I wrote about quarantine, and it won first place in the animation category, which I'm still very proud of. That's all I got. Let's just get into it, shall we?
Metastability is a theory in physics which proposes that our universe may exist in a false vacuum, and at any second, a burst of lower energy can rip apart galaxies and change the laws of physics itself. It reminded me about how happiness can only last for so long before a new issue emerges. This piece conveys the feeling of being too small to ever make a change. The two symmetrical bodies represent my internal feelings and my physical self. This piece was really an allegory for being trans, as many of the pieces in my portfolio are, but I really couldn't state it explicitly because I was not out to my school yet. The piece was inspired by a Lily Alexander video called Trans Girls Are the Void, which also references metastability. Be Not Afraid depicts my struggles growing up in a religious household. Pictured in the painting is someone wholeheartedly accepting and embracing their faith despite all fears and doubts. This is what I believe my Catholic parents wanted out of me. The dramatic lighting and highlights symbolize purity and holiness, and it is juxtaposed by the eeriness of the eyes, representing the pressure to be someone you are not. Honestly, I kind of bullshitted that description. This is really just real-aside fan art. That's all I have to say about it. I just wanted to show my skills in making a composition and oil painting. This digital illustration features a scenario where my current self meets my younger self. I sometimes look back at myself and think about how much my 10-year-old self would like me, but that same attitude is rarely reciprocated towards my younger self. I look back on my childhood as something that was worthy of shame and ridicule. Upon further reflection, I found it to be harsh and cruel to view myself that way, as I was merely a child having fun being a child. I often feel pressure from my peers, family members, myself, and sometimes I struggle to meet those expectations. I often find it difficult to find the courage to work on projects even though I understand my potential. To portray this feeling, I used oil paints to create a piece inspired by the reluctant ruler trope, an archetype in media which describes someone entrusted with great power despite trying to avoid it at all costs. Influenced by the photographer Claude Cahun's message of wearing layers of masks in our ever-evolving selves, I looked back to my experience as a digital artist. In the process of creating a final digital piece, there would be dozens of layers that would come before that in order to add up to the final rendered piece. I applied this concept to real-life identities, how years of physical and mental growth all accumulate to form our identities in the present. My art teacher essentially wanted us to make an installation piece, and all I could think of was doing something like this. I was kind of also inspired by like filters on Instagram and Snapchat, and how we use that to portray ourselves differently on Instagram versus how we would in real life. Society. Of course there's got to be a piece about society in here, and I just wanted to have something fun that people could look at in the exhibition and like take apart themselves, because you can basically take out the layers and play with them how you want to. Again, taking inspiration from Claude Cahun, I created a watercolor portrait of myself. I wanted to further explore working in black and white, but include an aspect of my usual style as seen in the diamond-shaped area around my left eye. I was influenced by Cahun's work to explore the subject of masks, the version you put out to the world versus your authentic self. I looked at the phrase, "eyes are a window to the soul," and integrated this idea into the painting. I used this piece to basically show that I was able to use traditional mediums in order to create something realistic, apart from my typical stylistic style. Stylistic style, wow, what a great choice of words. Pilgrimage and procrastination represents the struggles faced by many students, including stress, burnout, peer pressure, and fatigue. In creating this piece, I made use of two common student essentials, coffee and class notes. I drew inspiration from Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam. Recontextualized to the idea of a student's life, the hands represent our tools for creation and learning, but paradoxically, said creation and learning oftentimes comes at a price. This piece is a directly referenced illustration of my desk. It depicts the reality of many teenagers trying to find a balance between school and their hobbies, which sometimes results in both a physical and mental clutter due to the struggle of finding that perfect balance. This digital painting illustrates the downward spiral I've fallen down countless times while trying to balance my school life and my personal life. In arduous effortlessness, I express my conflicted feelings about the way I portray myself on social media, as a happy-go-lucky person who has no care for how they are perceived by others. The rips in my profile convey the message that so-called casual Instagram may be just as vain and manufactured as what may be considered a typical Instagram profile. Inspired by the Japanese practice of kintsugi, I painted the gaps in gold to portray the desire to fix something broken. This piece was meant to symbolize the act of growing up, conveyed through the ways our styles may change throughout our younger years. With shadow cast over the pair of Vans in the middle, it shows that I have not entirely grown up from that time of my life. The pair of Crocs worn in my earlier teenage years are bright and hit directly by sunlight, suggesting that those years were vibrant and exciting, but I've moved on. Now, this is a clay study that I did of my favorite kind of dog, the Borzoi, if y'all fucking know, the would not do it for you. Yeah, that's the dog. I was really interested in making a clay figure of some animal that was inspired by, those diagrams that you see in like the science lab of like a cut open human face. Yeah, I wanted to do that, but with a dog. So that's just what that is, and that's like the only clay sculpture that I did in my portfolio, and I wanted to show that I was also able to do 3D mediums. This is a lino cut print, part of a two-part series called Mankind's Last Sacrifice that I wanted to do about, things that humanity has done that have not been the best of our decisions. So the first one pictures Laika, the dog from the USSR that was sent to space and later died, and I just wanted to show that I was able to do lino cut, and it's one of my favorite mediums, but I did not explore it very much in my portfolio except for these two pieces. The second part of the series depicts climate change because, of course, there's got to be a piece about climate change in every high school student's portfolio. I wanted to create like my own composition, something that was also inspired by the Great Wave of Kanagawa, if I remember the name correctly. This is a piece that I'm still very, very proud of, and it's an observational piece of my sink, and I wanted to do something observational yet incorporated my style, so that's why I used a bunch of these crazy colors, but I wanted to make sure that while still using all these colors, I was able to present a realistic depiction of my sink. This is another observational drawing that I did, and it's actually a redraw of a painting that I did like 2 years ago of the same skeleton. What happened was that there was a skeleton figure in my art classroom, and me and my friends brought this wounded butterfly, and we let it rest on top of the skull, and I took a picture of it while I was there, and it died in the art classroom, which is upsetting, but yeah. And lastly, this is another observational study that I did in pen of my boba, and I just wanted to do something simple. These last 3 pieces were just observational pieces that I did for the portfolio specifically, because that's what they required. The letter F never bothered me growing up. The key never stood out to me from the 100 or so other keys on my keyboard. It was never a struggle for me to pronounce, nor was writing it down on paper ever difficult. However, when it came to filling out my personal information for an exam or legal documents, I always felt a stink whenever I hesitantly scribbled down an F besides the printed text that read gender. My childhood was riddled with this little itch I could never quite reach to scratch. My days would consist of fairies and family role-playing, all while looking with jealous, starved eyes at the roughhousers and the football players. I grew up to tread lightly, to wade in the shallow waters where I could safely take the role of brother in the game of family, but never reach the deep end where my peers would have a second look in order to decipher my personhood and perhaps begin to question my role in the game. At 14 years old, I began to realize that no, most girls do not want to be boys, and with that, all the pieces finally began to fall into place. But this was merely the beginning. The most difficult part of this journey was not the realization that I was not what I believed I was for the last 14 years, rather, it was acceptance. Throughout my formative years, I had always compared myself to my peers. I would also compare myself to my fellow transgender people. They're more feminine than me, I think. I fit in better, I assimilate better, I am better. For about a year, I put myself in an endless cycle of envy and irrational hatred that ironically caged me in even more. Through self-reflection, I got myself out of that hole of self-inflicted pain that I had dug myself into. On top of my internal struggles, I had to constantly fight external forces that were, most of the time, outside of my control. I hid myself due to the nature of my community. Though my school and family were not the most close-minded, I still had to consider the history that Indonesia has regarding to its treatment of LGBTQ+ individuals. I was not willing to take my chances. I still endured transphobic microaggressions on the daily, and with nobody to go to, art was my safe haven. The amount of euphoria that came from me simply drawing myself as myself was indescribable. Creating was what kept me trudging through the mud. I am now 17 years old. I learned that my actions and beliefs were what kept my community from breaking out of its chains. Since, how could we be free if even our own members could not find pride in themselves? I want to be a beacon of hope to other young people who were in my position, to show that life is so much more than hatred. I want to find my community and share my art and knowledge in order to bring kindness and healing. This is one of the reasons why I have chosen to study in the US. I navigate life through this lens that I cannot take off, and despite the number of issues brought upon me due to how society treats those with this pair of glasses, if I was given the option, I would never take them off. I see this world in vivid color, in ways that are unconventional and often uncomfortable to others, but change is seldom comfortable, yet often needed to make the world a better place.
Hey y'all, thanks for watching the video. I hope that was helpful to you somehow, or at least entertaining. If you enjoyed the video, do drop a like and a comment, and if you're even feeling generous, subscribe to my channel, and that's all for today. Once again, I'm Max, and goodbye.
Hey, yo, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to click subscribe, hit the like button, and smash that notification bell. See you next time at Jesterzoid.